01.
0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1.
Where to even begin with this show? For those of you that don't know, there's a global pandemic going on.
Yeah, if you're dead
Yeah,
from the
you might have heard
coronavirus,
of it.
you wouldn't know.
And before this pandemic happened, we were already pretty lukewarm, if not mad at this show for not being
Yep.
as good as it could be. And now that we've watched the final batch of episodes in a row, and
6 fucking episodes.
6 fucking episodes, uh, it managed to turn itself around and become maybe one of the more classic Kamen Rider series.
It's not. Unfortunate. It's such a shame that it wasn't during the Heisei era, or I could say it was the best of the Heisei era. But I mean, that's not true. I can't keep this up. I'm sorry. Uh, this show's doo-doo garbage.
Yeah, this show, even before the Rona, had problems, and Corona did not give it any favors.
So even before the pandemic, the show was suffering. And I think that it would be disingenuous, as I have seen on multiple places on Toku Twitter, to say that the pandemic is the problem. The pandemic is what caused this to be a bad show. What caused this to be a bad show is that it meandered for 20 episodes in the middle.
Yeah, and I mean, even after it meandered, it didn't pull things back together. It couldn't
No,
at the
it
point where
really
it
did.
had to.
Nothing was set up. So, yeah.
Corona was definitely a contributing factor to the very final 5 episodes.
Unpopular opinion. And I say unpopular, I'm just assuming this would be an unpopular opinion. I think that Corona may have helped. Because the last 5 episodes were not good, and there were lots of things going on in the last 5 episodes that were kind of nonsensical, or they depended on having an attachment to the characters that was not present. But they weren't boring, and they weren't formulaic. It's just weird, crazy, random shit was happening. And I'll take that.
Yeah, no, those last few episodes were, at the very least, entertaining. Where should we begin?
It's hard to describe,
Yeah,
because I don't really know what the plot is.
that's terrible. That's terrifying. Okay, I got a place to start. So
Okay,
we had a favorite character.
we did.
He was great. He might not be who you're thinking of, because he quickly, or has recently, become not so favorite because he just stagnated. But
Mm-hmm.
Thouser, when he was introduced, was
Yeah.
fantastic. Best part,
Yep.
best villain, awesome. Loved his
As
presented
is
by
recorded
Saber.
on this Japanophiles Kamen Rider special.
Right, and we really got a kick out of Thouser. The episodes that we started with in this batch, was the beginning of his face turn, his turn to being a good guy. And it's started by him remembering his pet robot dog.
Awesome.
That was never mentioned before. Not like that.
No.
It was just lazily kind of thrown in to make him nicer and to shove him out of the way as the new big bad arc came. And what you'll be hearing a lot, I'm sure, during this whole recording is, we thought they were going somewhere with Thouser. They never really did. And by the time it came to move him over into the good guy's side, it should have come around so much earlier.
I'm surprised he never got an upgrade.
He never did anything past the point where he turns into a good guy. He then just disappears and is only around just to like give information to the good guys about different things, but he's never really relevant. I don't even think he transforms in the latter half of these episodes that we watched, which is kind of a problem when he's the driving force for most of your show.
Yeah.
Like
No, it's a big issue.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
talk about
Bowser's
Arc.
Arc. So describe to me for a moment. Give me just as a thought experiment. Who is Ark? Where did Ark come from? Who developed Ark? Can
Ark
you answer any of these questions?
Ark is the evil will of humanity. No, no, I was gonna say evil will of humanity to destroy robots, but he's not really.
No, he's some kind of anomalous force of malice, which somebody turned into a program um, for reasons I either like forgot or maybe I'm the asshole. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to think. Is like, did I just not pay attention and I missed it, or was it legitimately approximated so poorly that the final villain, which is this dark force that first showed up presumably with Hopper, Shining Hopper, because he was surrounded by all the evil red letters.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's fucking weird that
I
the main villain has so little
yeah,
anything.
so little anything, and it's not like they needed to put a face behind who this guy was, and like having him as some sort of weird body hopping thing has been done with stock, and that was great. But
Mm-hmm.
I am also drawing a complete blank on like what he is, what his motivations were, other than like being evil, and also there was a aspect of it that was kind of redundant in that Ark would body hop between the members of MetsuboJinrai.net, most of which all had the same goals and like or at certain points all had the same goal. So he's not really
Right.
making them evil so much as he is making them even more eviler, and then becomes a problem because he's doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, good suit design, but God, it
It
just
looked pretty cool.
such a weird, and it's weird to talk about him now after seeing the end, because at this
Yeah.
po- at the at, like the last 5 episodes, he's already taken care of, and he's so irrelevant to the rest of the plot that you're like, oh yeah, he was doing things, and he gets into this holding pattern of like just showing up, messing up the good guys until eventually
You know,
Arto gets
so
stronger,
like,
point
yeah.
by
I mean,
point.
that's
Like,
that's so like 02 is introduced and it looks cool.
yeah,
It's just like the 01 suit, a little bulkier with some red highlights.
how often is
It's
02
sharp
used in these past
twice,
whatever many episodes? Yeah,
like
twice.
twice.
Uh, yeah, 02 is cool. He beats up Ark, which begins our first Ark gets his ass kicked, and then looks like a punk, which makes at the time I was thinking, oh, this is weird that they would have a final villain and then just punk him out like this. Like, oh, great. They're doing Thouser again. But then the second time he gets punked out, he just stays dead.
Yep.
Uh, which, yeah, that's fucking weird. And it's that fight that has Hotobi and 01, now 02, teaming up with each other. Which we mentioned was weird because they aren't exactly like Arto and Hotobi. They've never been kind of like foils to each other. It was usually Arto
No,
and Jin or Hotobi and
they've
Fua, right?
really not had a lot of conversation.
Somehow Hotobi becomes the main antagonist of the entire final act of the show, and Arto is pitted against him in a desperate struggle.
The setup is just Azu kind of becomes the main villain, uh,
Who we also
more
don't
or less.
really know who she is. This is the
She may have
redheaded.
been, I believe, she was created during the recap
Yeah,
episodes. We definitely did not watch those.
no, we watched one of them. She comes in and is like all mysterious and stuff. And that was
Mhm.
our introduction to her. That was like her first introduction. And it looks like she's going to play a role in the movie, but we'll get to that later. She's manipulating. Essentially, she's manipulating Horobi and Arto to fight each other, even though their motivations kind of already have them pitted against each other. She's making them more mad at each other. And a part of this is by making Arto into Lord Arc, he giving him a second final form, which is a evil 01 arc thing.
Yeah.
And like most 01 suits, I can only say it looks cool. That's it.
It's very neat.
I was excited. I mean, I would be more excited with the direction of making Arto into a villain if it wasn't for the fact that it happened in the last 5 episodes and they couldn't do much with it. Weirdly enough, they don't really have him like change back. I guess by the end of by the final battle, he's morally justified, but he's still doing it out of like revenge, and I don't know. It's weird. He was never exactly a bad guy, but he wasn't brainwashed. He was just doing villainy things.
He was being manipulated into killing Horobi for killing Izu, and Horobi was manipulated into killing all humans for killing Jin. And it was they were doing like the cycle of malice, the cycle of revenge. Like I get it. It's
Last
it's
of
fine.
Us 2.
That's not. Oh no.
Yeah, but they also were doing this cycle. They were doing this cycle in the last 5 episodes, and in a way, I can't help but like the idea of the main character spurred into action by the anger of killing his sidekick, and getting really dark and angry, and just like going all out against Horobi. I don't think it was done particularly well here, or at least not better than other places.
Yeah.
Which is a running theme.
Yep. Show was just so uninspired. But yeah, it's they fight. The fucking Arto wins, and Hirobi is like he gets beat up real bad, but not like that bad. And everybody comes back to life, and it's a happy ending for all. I like the status quo of a kind of reformed Hirobi watching over to make sure that like human rights violations don't occur to
to robots. Do you want to get into that spiel? Do you want to tell everybody your hot take about robots?
Sure. Just yeah, okay. So the robots, as they are depicted in this show, have on multiple occasions, through multiple different means and mediums, whether that be programs or like special fucking viruses or whatever, have been induced to commit genocide mode. Now I am in committing genocide mode and will destroy all of humanity.
Yeah. They also, it's also like, there were certain moments where maybe it's because we're Americans, but the riots were maybe written during the Corona break, and maybe you can tell that they were writing about certain social injustices with robots, but it doesn't really work.
No, I mean, it's done so quickly, and it doesn't really go anywhere, which is yeah,
but also like as you were saying, in this world, robots are a device which does have a definite like ability. There is a threat. There is a credible threat of this.
At this point, there is no reason. Okay, morally speaking, according to the world that's been set up here, robots have on so many occasions proved to be like basically not worth having on. There's no reason why they shouldn't go on a mass deactivation campaign and get rid of all human gears, unless what they're trying to do is like a X-Men thing, where it's like they're a subclass, they're like a metaphor for minorities
But they've
of
never
all
really
kinds.
been that.
No, no, never. They continue to serve a purpose, and they have the mysterious, like, completely bizarre, where most of them, after going through their arc, are like willingly decide to continue doing the thing they're built for. So it's not even a case of like, they've been forced into these roles that they don't want to occupy. No, they're toasters, literally toasters that, at a moment's notice, may get a glitch and murder the entire family that has them.
Not to mention that they are completely replaceable. I mean, like
Yes,
they have
on
the whole
multiple
personality
occasions, it's
chip
been done.
and fucking even at the end, Izu, the robot that we're supposed to identify the most as a single person. This is the sidekick. This is the main character. She comes back. They just, replaced her with a new body and her backup data, which if you can't, or if you're already making the point that these are individuals, then you really can't also say that they are replaceable by indistinguishable backup copies of them. Those two
Yeah.
things just contradict inherently. All right, and speaking of which, that does lead us into the epilogue.
Yeah. So there's a sudden thing where we jump to a rooftop where a guy that was introduced in the last couple of episodes, who's like Guy's old boss or something.
Was that even
I,
him?
I don't know. That's
It
what I
didn't look
thought.
like
Was wearing
him.
the same coat.
No, he was wearing like all black.
Oh, I thought he was wearing. I
In
thought that
in
was
the
him, but
comments
I could be
below,
wrong.
write which one of us is correct.
Yeah, yeah. Who was that guy? Was he just some rando, or was he the guy that was introduced earlier? He is given a special henshin device, which turns him into the next like arc guy.
Yeah, they have one episode, like less than a minute left, and they establish a new villain. And fucking evil Izu is like still around, which I guess just means that whatever storyline they had, because it became clear to us around episode 41 that they had essentially wrapped up the show had wrapped up its main plot and was now just starting a whole bunch of new things, and that this was almost certainly the point in which they started writing from, with like Corona, with the break, that they just started writing this final arc. And maybe this is where they were just like, okay, we're going to just quickly add in this new evil character. We'll introduce her in the recap episode, and then she'll show up later on. We're gonna tie this into the movie as much as we can and try to fix this somehow.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's kind of bizarre too how at the end everyone's still alive. Everyone is more or less, I guess the implication is that Horobi and Jin are not going to try to destroy humanity.
mm,
Naki and the astronaut guy seem to be living good lives or whatever. But everyone's more or less in the exact same place that they started in at the beginning of the show, with very minor changes. Nothing major has changed from the start to the end,
yeah.
despite us going through everything else. I guess the only character that really has a significant status quo change is Thouser, but who fucking cares? They didn't use him.
In conclusion, never in the entirety of my Kamen Rider watching experience have I ever kept on with a show that I continuously found to be disappointing, uninteresting, and uninspiring. I feel tricked. I want my money back. I didn't pay any, but give it back to me anyways. It's just incredible. Like I was saying while we were watching, whenever somebody asks, what is your least favorite anything?" It's always very difficult for me to answer that question because, generally speaking, I don't continue watching things that I don't enjoy. So a show has to like disappoint me in order for me to say, I didn't like that much. That just doesn't happen very often. In
Disappointing
this instance,
is definitely the word I would use.
yeah,
The consistent thing with 01 was we would be hooked. We would say, "Oh, this it looks like it's going here," and then it would just swerve and not go there. And what did you say before? We were mistaking this for depth.
vacuosity for depth.
We basically thought that they were going somewhere, and they never actually went there. And much more in the early episodes of the series, we would give them the benefit of the doubt. We would be like, "Oh, okay, don't. I thought it was going here, but I guess it's going there. Oh, I think I'm in it now," and it
Yeah,
just fucking sucked. Fantastic suit designs. Actually, some great action. If I cared about the characters more, I think I would be way more impressed by the fight scenes. On a technical level, they're great, but because you're not invested in the characters, I just didn't get too much out of them.
no,
And we were comparing this to Drive while we were watching it in some ways. And basically, what I was saying was that Drive was not it wasn't really doing anything new that other shows hadn't done before it, but it did center around a good cast of characters that you liked and that you consistently wanted to see more of. And that made
yeah,
up for that. Yeah.
simple story, but it was solid when you had such likable dudes to hang out with along the way. One of the best casts of the Heisei era, I would say.
01 just didn't have a cast that gelled well together, or at least they just kept separating them out and people were on one side or the other and they kept switching, which in theory is good. Again, on paper, you keep things exciting. Oh, lines of alliances are constantly moving. But in practice, it just meant that Vulcan and Arto got their episodes together and then Yua was evil for the majority of the show and didn't do
Yeah,
much other than enable Thouser. We didn't get those nice little character moments between everybody that made us like them and care about why they're fighting each other. And unfortunately, the finale plays off of this sort of expecting you to care about these characters way more than you actually are invested in them, especially when it comes down to Horobi and 01's fight. When it comes down to all of the character epilogues, it just felt kind of hollow.
like this bizarre legume, which I found that does not appear to have anything inside of it. I'm sure it's an alien.
We didn't even get like a advertisement for Saber at the end of that episode, did we?
No, no, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Not that we were expecting a cameo, but
No,
it's still like,
not at all.
man, that must be a little bit of Rona there. So we're not going to be continuing this series with Saber. We'll see how Saber turns out, and then maybe there'll be a video out if it seems
Sure.
like it's shaping up to be good. But
If it seems like an exciting extravaganza, the likes of which has not been seen since Guy,
yeah,
absolutely.
I think we're both definitely kind of burnt out, unfortunately, from doing
Yep.
this. I'm sure if you follow us on Twitter, we'll be bitching about Kamen Rider for a while.
The
Um,
next 50 years or so.
why are we not as excited for Saber?
Because written by the writer for Ghost, which was boring and not fun.
And it follows the trend of having a good design and
Good
a theme that
design,
makes sense,
theme that makes sense,
which
bad show.
also fantasy. These
Yeah.
spell doom for Kamen Rider series.
However, playing devil's advocate, our man Katetsu Toy Reviews has suggested that the writer was stymied by Toei during the production of Ghost, and that his abilities are actually quite impressive, according to the novels that he's written.
I was going to say, it makes
No,
me
no,
wonder if something similar happened with 01, because this was the writer of Xaid, was it not?
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if that's the case,
hard
then
to say.
that really puts me on neutral ground, because that same producer is still producing Saber. If 01 is the start of mediocre series that aren't so bad you're just going like, what the fuck is going on? Except for at the very end. But they're not so good that you're legitimately invested, then I don't know if I can watch Rider for a little while. I might have to
Yep,
take a bit of a break.
definitely need a break. I'm kind of interested in some elements of the premise though.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give the first episode a watch. That first episode has to win me over.
Yep.
So, you have anything closing you want to say about 01? I mean, you kind of already
Well,
did.
yeah, I I hate for this last episode of the Kamen Rider special to be such a downer. But here's the thing. Um, Ultraman's fucking sick, so we're jumping on the Ultra trade, baby! Yeah!
This is not condoned by the channel Japanophile. However,
Fuck bikes!
we are looking into continuing this podcast, maybe in a slightly different format, in a slightly different
Yeah,
way, and not following a Kamen Rider series week to week. But we'll
correct.
keep you guys updated.
Yep. Kamen Rider 01. Shit.